It's great to be back in India. So, especially for an event like Tech2 Innovate. There we go. So, I toured the grounds a little bit yesterday when they were setting up, and I have to tell you, you're in for a treat. It's going to be awesome. Between the sandboxes, the experience, the music, it's going to be a phenomenal event. And it's designed to not only entertain you, but to inform you, and most of all, to inspire you. And when I think about the digital era, the era we're in right now, the last 10 or 15 years, inspiration is the key word. 15 years ago, we couldn't have imagined the amount of connectivity, the internet options we have, social media, the access through mobile devices. So inspiration really defines the digital era. And I think what's important to know is the architects of the digital era were people just like you, just younger in their careers. They developed the infrastructure, the content, and the applications. And now it's your turn to inherit the digital era and bring it forward. Those people had their own journeys, their own stories, just like you have your own story. And I want to start by telling the story of the company that I work for, Corning Incorporated. So Corning's based in a small town in upstate New York. This is actually our headquarters, very peaceful, very rural. We've been around for 168 years, as Shireen said, and we're basically a bunch of engineers and glass scientists, a company of about 50,000 people. And one of our very earliest products was the glass envelope for Thomas Edison's light bulb. And we take a lot of pride that we were there in the very beginning to help launch electricity and light for basically society. And since that time, we've reinvented ourselves multiple times through innovation. So our story is really one of the intersection of innovation and inspiration. And let me give you a few examples. So does anybody here have a smartphone? Anybody? Of course. Everybody does. The question is, who doesn't have a smartphone? Maybe somebody left it in the bus or Uber. Feel sorry for that person. But everybody has a smartphone. Just think about that for 1 second. At no other point in human history have more people carried the same object on their body as a smartphone. In 5,000 years, not eyeglasses, not watches. So we're at a point in history where more people carry the same object on their body than ever before. And if you take out your phone and look at it, there's dozens of components in that phone. The thing you touch every day is glass. Most likely glass developed by Corning and manufactured by Corning. In the last 12 years, we've been used on 7 billion devices. That's part of the Corning story, and to me, that's inspiration. Let me give you another example. Has anybody checked a photo or video on their phone in the last hour? I'm guessing everybody, except the person who left their phone in the Uber, right? But everybody's looked at a photo or video. Have you ever thought how that photo got on your phone? Probably not. You just take it for granted. But in the network that connects the internet is optical fiber. And here's a spool of it right here. Corning was the first company in the early 70s to develop low-loss optical fiber. Let me tell you how this works. That photo you're looking at is digitized into zeros and ones. A laser pulsing 100 billion bits per second, 100 billion bits a second, think about that, goes down a fiber roughly the diameter of a human hair. And not only one laser, you can put 80 lasers with 80 different wavelengths down the same fiber, the diameter of a human hair, each pulsing at 100 billion bits a second. That's how the internet works, and that technology was developed by Corning. So that's part of the Corning story, and to me that's inspiration. And then lastly, I assume people have been in a car or a bus over the last week. Everybody had to, right, to get here, to travel. So the combustion process, whether it's gas or diesel, makes nasty chemicals. And those chemicals can end up in the air we breathe. Corning developed an emission controls technology to scrub those bad chemicals before they enter the atmosphere. Since 1974, Corning technology has kept 4 billion tons of hydrocarbons out of the air we breathe. 4 billion tons of nitrogen oxide, 40 billion tons of carbon monoxide. Those are stunning numbers. That's part of the Corning story, and to me, that's inspiration. So I've given you 3 examples just in the last 30 to 40 years where Corning's made a big difference on society to help the digital era, smartphones and connecting the internet. And all these speak to innovation. Now, the key to our success, one of the keys, and you may find this surprising, is a willingness to fail. If you're going to innovate for a living, eventually you're going to fail. In fact, Shireen quoted the statistics, 90% of innovations aren't successful. But just because something fails doesn't mean you're a failure. It means the project was a failure. You get judgment, you get experience, you get intuition, and you innovate again. And if you don't have this willingness to fail or learn to fail, you simply can't be an innovator. If you look at our strongest leaders, whether they're coaches or business people or people in the media like Shireen, they've all struggled at some point in their life. They've struggled, they've learned, they've persevered, and that's how they get to be success. So failure is a prerequisite for success. So as you write your own story and go forward in your own life, if you want to innovate for a living, you have to realize you are going to fail and have setbacks, but you have to get up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward to get to that big invention. Let me make it very personal to Corning, how we've failed in the past and it's led to success. 1968, we came up with an idea to strengthen glass to penetrate the windshield market in the US, the automobile market. We took what we thought was a great idea to the US automakers, and they said, not doing it for us, don't like the price point, don't like the performance. It's basically a failure. So when we had that conversation, they said, but oh, by the way, these new emission standards are going to be deployed in the US and throughout the world, and we need a way to clean up the atmosphere. That was the birth of the emissions control product I talked about before. So that was the first success out of the failure of windshield glass. Then fast forward to 2006, 2007, the earliest smartphones had plastic on them. They scratched. We got a call from a major OEM brand and said, we want to put glass in the first smartphones. We went back to the glass we made in 1968. We tweaked the formula, we made it on some new assets, and in 6 months we were in production. And that was the birth of the Gorilla Glass business. So out of that failure in 1968, 2 major successes for Corning. So our story, the Corning story, is all about infrastructure. Your story can be about infrastructure, equipment, apps, content. Everybody has a different story. Look around you. Everybody's on a different journey. The key thing I want you to ask yourself as you walk around here over the next couple days is your story going to matter? Will it matter tomorrow, what you do in your career? Will it matter a week from now, a year from now? Will it matter in 168 years? It's your story. You're going to write it. You just have to be willing to fail and learn and keep moving forward because you are going to inherit the legacy of the digital era. Now, I've talked a lot about individual stories, but sometimes our stories have to come together as a group. And when we think about the environment, this is a group story. The environment's in trouble. And I talked a little bit about how Corning has tried to make improvements, significant improvements in air quality, and we're very proud about that. Another cause we're passionate about is gorillas. So because it's our namesake, Victor Gorilla, and you can see it in our booth, we've worked in the past to support rescuing the endangered species. Several species of the gorilla are endangered, and we work closely with Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund. So going forward, we'll be working with them, giving them mobile devices that helps them with data collection and tracking the gorillas, and it's really a story that needs a good ending. So I encourage you, you can't do everything to save the environment or all the causes, but pick 1 or 2 causes on your journey through life as you write your own story and make sure you're giving back. For us, it's through how we clean up the air and gorillas, but everybody has their own cause. Now with that, I hope you have a great show. I hope you're inspired, and I hope you're on your journey to writing your own story. Thank you.